Tim, do you want to talk about Free Comic Book Day generally? What was the reception like to this
Yeah.
to this comic as a comics retailer?
Yeah, I'll start back a sec in case we have any new listeners. I own a comic book store. I've owned it since 2011, and it had been open since 2008. And we are in a small city. We border Cambridge and Boston, Massachusetts. We're in Somerville. And a mile and a half away, and 2 miles away, and 3 miles away are other comic book stores. You can walk to one of them in 25 minutes. You can walk to one of them in 45 minutes. You can take the bus or drive. And one of the cool things about Free Comic Book Day in Somerville, Massachusetts, is that if you wanted to, you can hit more than one store. You can go to Cambridge, you can go to Arlington, you can hit these other stores, and this might feel sort of like greedy, like I have to get them all, or but I actually see it the other way, which is not every comic book store carries every Free Comic Book Day comic offering, and maybe they didn't get the one you want, or you sort of make a day of it and you go from one store to the next, and you pick up 3 or 5, whatever their limit is, and you go to another one, or maybe you're going with a friend. Free Comic Book Day for my store, Hub Comics, has always been a huge deal because I thought when Free Comic Book Day was first originated, I think that's 2001, but I might be off by a year. Joe Field, a comic book store owner, came up with Free Comic Book Day. I believe his store, Flying Color Comics. And Free Comic Book Day is a lot of work because initially it was just Diamond, the distributor, but now it's Diamond, the distributor, and Penguin Random House, the distributor, and Lunar, the distributor, and all the publishers, and then any store and maybe library that wants to take part. Common misconception, folks: your store does not get Free Comic Book Day comics for free. Your store buys them. So your store is spending money on Free Comic Book Day. It's always been a big deal for me because I thought it was a wonderful idea in 2001 and 2 and 3 when I was just a person in my 20s going to comic book stores. And I loved the outreach of it, that you might rope in some people who were lapsed readers or who had never read comics. And so it was up to the publishers to put their best foot forward and put out good single issues. And I thought when I went to stores, I've been to many different stores on Free Comic Book Day before I had my own store, and I've seen different takes on it. And I'm going to read you a text from a friend of mine reporting from another city in another state with a different take on Free Comic Book Day. But it's a party, right? Everyone loves free stuff, and I think more people would love comics if you sort of gave them a reason. And here's a reason. In 2011, when I took over Hub Comics, we made Free Comic Book Day as big a deal as we could. And it was a real bummer in 2020 when Free Comic Book Day was sort of half canceled because of the pandemic. It still happened, but it was spread out over a month. Many stores didn't do it. So the night before, after we close, I'm giddily setting up. I'm moving a bunch of normal stuff out of the way so we can have a big display of our Free Comic Book Day issues. And then when they're all in front of me, we decide sort of how many can people take tomorrow. Maybe we'll let kids take sort of more than grown-ups. Do we want to put the younger books on the left and the teen books in the middle? And in the last few years, they've started to be like M for mature Free Comic Book Day comics. Maybe we'll put those on a right. Maybe we'll make a sign. Maybe we won't make a sign. In some years, we've had a sale on some things during Free Comic Book Day. We haven't done this, but other stores do, where they will also have an artist or a writer signing on Free Comic Book Day, which makes it that much more of a draw and a party. We get crowded enough that I would have a hard time doing both kinds of events at the same time. But I do love it in theory. Free Comic Book Day, maybe this is the sentence you were fishing for when you asked the question mark. Free Comic Book Day is our biggest day of the year. I joke, this isn't accurate, but I sort of joke. It's like December for Toys R Us in the 80s. It's not actually true, but it feels that way. We have people who only come in every few months at my store. They're not Wednesday warriors, but they definitely come in on Free Comic Book Day. And we have a few people who come in once a year on Free Comic Book Day. And I know there are some comic book stores that are cynical or have sort of outgrown Free Comic Book Day. I have read a few accounts from store owners who, in a very reasoned, measured way, have said, you know what, this is a lot of work. You know, customers are sort of entitled, or they come in, a few customers. I read accounts where a few store owners have said, we don't make a lot of money on Free Comic Book Day. We spend money, customers come in, want free stuff, and don't stick around to buy stuff. And if that is your experience and you then don't want to make a big deal of it or participate at all, I think that's fair. We've always had a lot of people show up, and because it's the spring, we almost always have good weather. And then there's this other great thing that happens some years, which is a big arts event called Somerville Open Studios is the same weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. There are many artists in my city of Somerville. We have a local organization that gets some state funding called the Somerville Arts Council. And there are some like zoning rules in Somerville for artist spaces and artist live work spaces. And so it is this 2 days once a year where all these participating artists who have studios where they draw or make ceramics or paint or something like that, they like take part, they get themselves on the map. There's an actual map, and people, citizens, just walk around Somerville, which is 4 square miles, and visit artists and talk with them, maybe buy stuff, look at their stuff. And artists tend to like slightly rearrange their studios for this weekend to like make it a little bit more of a gallery to receive some guests. And so if it's nice weather because it's the spring and people are walking by the store and they see signs for Free Comic Book Day, it's just sort of one more thing that's going on. Maybe they're already out for free. Maybe they're already out for Somerville Open Studios. Maybe they're just out because it's a spring day. It was great. And as both a half of the Talking Joe hosting cast and also a reader of G.I. Joe and Transformers comics, I was psyched that Skybound made a Free Comic Book Day comic for the Energon Universe for this year. In past years, when issue 155 and a half from IDW was IDW's Free Comic Book Day comic, it was a G.I. Joe launch. And there was another year where Transformers Regeneration 1, issue 80 and a half from IDW was IDW's Free Comic Book Day of the year. And then the Tom Scioli Transformers versus G.I. Joe, was that issue 0, Mark?
I think you might be right. Yeah.
That was IDW's Free Comic Book Day offering for that year. Transformers and G.I. Joe, I think, are such big deals. If there have been years where IDW, their Free Comic Book Day offering was a Ninja Turtles one, and that makes sense. But I remember thinking, no, do G.I. Joe again. No, do Transformers again. So yesterday was very busy at my store, and you may not be able to hear it in my voice, but I'm a little tired. And I ordered more of the Energon Universe Special than any of the other. Take that, Marvel Blood Hunt X-Men. Take that, Marvel Spider-Man Ultimate Universe. Take that, DC. What was DC's book? Oh, DC had 4 books. Take that, all 4 of DC's Free Comic Book Day comic. The last thing I'll say specifically about my store yesterday at Free Comic Book Day, we can actually talk about this comic, is the Energon Universe Special. That was the last or second to last one that we ran out of, partly because it was popular and partly because I had ordered so many.
I wonder what sort of impact it will have in terms of people who would be picking up any of these books that might not otherwise have done so.
Despite all of that optimism and happiness and good news about Free Comic Book Day, I don't think, this is a feeling, This is not based on any facts or research I've done. My feeling is that Free Comic Book Day does not convert a lot of non-comics readers into readers, but that it reactivates to a light extent some lapsed readers. And there are Free Comic Book Day comics where it's like the Marvel Blood Hunt one for this year, which is an Avengers and Blade story where they're vampires. And the first issue of the miniseries has already come out, and then the Free Comic Book Day one is a retroactive prologue with a new X-Men story that teases the big relaunch coming in a few months. I think if you read that, so some of them are new material, some of them are like a selection from a publisher's existing line, and some of them are like just an excerpt of an upcoming graphic novel. And I've long thought that just sort of generally in comics, a lot of writers don't know how to write really good 8-page stories, because comics tend to be 20 or 22-page stories, or graphic novels tend to be 100 or 200 or 300. And in the 50s, all the EC stories were 7 or 8 pages, and they've all got snap endings, Tales from the Crypt and Frontline Combat. And I feel like that's an exercise that more comics writers should try. And so it's a challenge. Coming back to the Energon Universe Special, like, okay, the lead story, the Transformers one, I think it's 16 pages, and then the Void Rivals, I think, is like 7, and then the G.I. Joe one at 8, something like that. And they're all good. None of them feel like just the opening pages of a larger story. They all make sense. But I think if you didn't know anything about these 3 properties and that they had come to comics recently, that these 3 specific stories, I think you might read these and think like, oh yeah, cool, Megatron and Optimus Prime, and like, oh, okay, some aliens, and that there's a Transformer, and like, oh yeah, some action, some G.I. Joe action. But I don't know that it's like such catnip, and I wish it were. This is not me saying that the creators of this book didn't do a good job. I think they all did a great job. But I feel like, it's like, here's a comparison. If Ben and Jerry's has free cone day once a year, you can go to a Ben and Jerry's and they'll just give you a free small ice cream cone. And I did that once, and it was really fun. We waited in line. We got free ice cream, but I didn't go to that Ben and Jerry's every week for the next 6 months to get more ice cream. It didn't convert me into like a regular ice cream buyer. And so I think if you're predisposed to comics, or if you've like just moved to the area, like, oh, there's a comic book store, oh, they're having a thing, right? Or if you're predisposed to G.I. Joe and Transformers, and then you get this free comic and it is a good single issue with 3 little satisfying stories, I think that can do some good. But I think the net effect of someone who hasn't read a lot of comics, or maybe any, going to a store on Free Comic Book Day and getting, hopefully 3 or 4 or 5 very different Free Comic Book Day comics, I think there's a net effect there. Like, oh, well, this one's superhero. This one's like a reprint of some 1950s horror. Oh, well, this one's like Transformers. This one is like an Avengers story. Like, I guess I should go read that Avengers story. I think sort of the more the merrier.